Our topic is against dehorning and castration of food animals. This is Group 8, Section number Animal Science 67 1 by Sarah Stevens, Adonari Rios, Alexis Honeycutt, Madeline Viz, Animals and Society, April 5th, 2020. I'm Adonari, and I will be discussing about the history and background of why we should not dehorn animals. Though horns certainly offer their advantages, several animal rights groups have brought forward several of the reasons to not dehorn cattle. Cattle with horns held in pastures are more able to defend themselves against predators, or if they feel like they're going to be harmed by anything, they'll be able to protect themselves by the horns. Dehorning takes time and costs money. Either having a vet doing it or purchasing the equipment is a lot of financial loss. And I know that vet usually is very expensive. And the equipment also is kind of pricey to find the proper equipment. Dehorning without anesthesia is very painful to the animal, and it can really traumatize them later in the future. Why we should not castrate is because it's very painful. There is risk of hemorrhage. In a survey of New Zealand cattle producers, surgical castration was associated with reportedly higher complications, including bleeding, swelling, infections, and death. It may also increase risks of local or systemic diseases after the procedure. Also, the financial losses, it's pretty expensive to get it castrated if you want to make sure that it's safe and that there's not going to be a risk of getting a disease later in the future. The ethical aspects. Dr. William Muir is an instructor of animal science at Purdue University. He states a bloody and painful process that no one likes to do. The process of dehorning is very painful for the animals, and it is performed without any painkillers. The pain of this procedure can last up to hours or days. Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, RSPCA, believe that any animal who's being dehorned should be given a pain relief medication for the procedure. They believe it should be more humane to provide animals with painkiller medication because they think it is wrong for the animal to endure pain after having surgical procedures done. My name is Madeline Viss, and I will be talking about the sociological and cultural importance of why we should not dehorn and castrate food animals. Horns are traditional in some breeds. Breed standards may require the presence of horns, such as the Texas Longhorn, which is seen in the top right image, the Highland cow, and the White Park cattle. In some areas, horns provide some sort of cultural significance. Hindus believe that cattle are a sacred symbol of life that should be protected and revered. They are often decorated and trained into strange shapes, as seen in the bottom right picture of a sacred cow in India who is dressed in brightly colors. In some cultures, such as Judaism, the Jewish law prohibits castrating animals. The middle image is of the Torah, which is considered the Jewish law.
Current events against dehorning. According to an article published by PETA in March of this year, 2020, a Vermont farmer who breeds cows for dairy industry has admitted that only 10% of cows that are dehorned receive proper pain medication. So basically, 90% of the calves who are being dehorned are not receiving any pain medication at all. After a calf is dehorned, they can be in severe pain for hours if not medicated. It is even possible for the pain to become chronic. So for that animal's whole entire lifetime, it will feel the pain if it is done incorrectly. The article that I cited also talks about ways of getting around dehorning by offering solutions. I also quoted an article, a little excerpt from that article. It says, one simple solution is to breed naturally hornless cows. A single gene determines whether or not a cow will have horns, and this approach has proved effective in the beef industry. So if you look to my image on the right, that cow is actually a breed of cow that is hornless. So there's no need to undergo painful dehorning because it was born without horns. Current events against castration. A current article by the American Veterinary Medical Association stated castration of male cattle is common practice throughout the world. Although castration inflicts pain on the animal and causes a slow growth rate and poor feed efficiency, there are benefits as well. Castration reduces aggressiveness. There are many complications that can occur during and after castration, like infections, wounds that will not heal, immunosuppression, and even death of the animal. Castration-associated immunosuppression may increase risks of local and systemic disease after the procedure. If you look to my image on the right, this is actually a bull that had the castration procedure where basically a tiny rubber band was put around its testicles, and it was done wrong. So not only did that animal have a rubber band that was cutting its circulation off to that part of the tissue and was in pain, it was done incorrectly. So now they had to go back and do it for a second time. Not worth it.
My name is Madeline Viss, and I will be against dehorning. Dehorning, which is the removal of fully grown horns without the use of anesthesia, is extremely painful for the animal. A 2011 study, which surveyed 639 farmers, found that 52% of farmers reported disbudding caused pain that lasted more than 6 hours. Only 10% of those farmers used local anesthesia before cauterization, and only 5% provided post-operative pain relief. Farmers indicated limited willingness to pay the cost of pain relief medication or to call a veterinarian to perform the procedure. In the bottom right picture, you will see a goat who was dehorned improperly, which caused severe swelling and infection. The top right picture, you can see in the middle of that dehorn, is a pussy area, which shows infection. For my next slide, against dehorning, horned livestock are better able to protect themselves and their young from predators such as dogs and wolves. In very hot climates, horns are useful for thermoregulation and cooling since there is such a large blood supply flowing through them. If the disbudding procedure is done incorrectly, brain damage can occur from a hot iron being left on too long. If the iron is not left on long enough, scurs, which can be seen in the right bottom picture, can form that can cause severe damage depending on the direction they grow. In the bottom right picture, the right horn is now growing into the left side of its head. In the top right picture, you can see the large amount of blood supply that flows through the horn. All methods of castration cause pain. The main types of castration are surgical, banding, and burdizo. In the top picture, you will see an elastrator, which is used for banding. In the middle picture, you will see a burdizo for the burdizo method. The likelihood of either hemorrhage, infection, ill performance, and physiological stress from castration can be guaranteed. The bottom picture shows the surgical procedure of castration. All of these procedures cause pain for these animals. Animals who are castrated may include responses such as kicking the hind legs, tail swishing, foot stamping, head turning, restlessness, stilted gait, reduced activity, increased recumbency, abnormal standing posture, and reduced interest in dams, grazing, and feed intake. In the top right picture, you will see a botched attempt at a banding on a cow. In the bottom picture, you will see a failed attempt at a surgical castration on a goat. Both of these have caused these animals extreme pain.
So there's a lot of things that could go wrong when you dehorn animals. So some complications include tetanus, anaplasmosis, and bovine cutaneous papillomas. Some of the causes are exposing sinuses to dirt, dust, disease, and disease-carrying insects. Equipment may also cause infections. The study of heifers on California dairy showed a risk of bovine leukosis virus, which was increasing from 8% to 77% when heifers were gouge dehorned. Some castration complications. There's one, and it's called belly nuts, and this can occur when both testicles are pushed up into the body cavity and a ring is placed below them. Failure to fix this can lead to a very costly, painful, invasive surgery in the animal. There can also be infection, swelling, bleeding, discomfort, and pain. Also, this is Sarah Stevens speaking. So, why is it painful? For dehorning, there is a corneal nerve running from behind the eye to the base of the horn, and what this does is it gives sensation in the horn. Dehorning stimulates acute pain response and delayed inflammatory reaction. Minimizing pain during dehorning is almost impossible, and this is kind of the same thing for castration. No matter what, the animals are going to feel some type of pain before or during and after. So for castration, the testicles swell up with liquid and become the size of coconuts. The scrotums could be cut open and testes are pulled out and cut off. The calves may have a rubber ring around the scrotum to stop the blood from flowing, and this leads to the testicles falling off. Surgical castration causes intense pain that lasts a few days, usually after, and banding castration causes less intense but more chronic pain lasting over a month. So there are other methods in which we can do to avoid dehorning and castration. So for dehorning, there's the selection of breeding, and this eliminates the animal's pain that they're feeling during the process, and it also eliminates production expenses. So polled bulls, they're livestock without horns due to selective breeding, and these polled bulls actually demonstrate the same behavior, growth, and carcass quality and reproductive performance equal to horned bulls. Castration, immunization, and vaccination techniques have been developed to help avoid having to do that. This suppresses male hormone production, and it helps to reduce testicular development and results in steer-like carcasses as well. So there are many reasons as to why dehorning and castration should not be done on food animals. First of all, these are both very painful experiences for the animals that are going through them. Not only are they painful, but they can be very costly and even lead to infection. There are many different ways in which both dehorning and castration can be avoided with other methods. And so both of these are extremely cruel and should be avoided at all costs. And then this is our works cited.